Ми знов раді вас вітати в нашому залі. І до уваги предоставляється доповідь Алексія Горушкіна One-to-one meeting, step by step, how to. Прошу.
Okay, let's proceed with English. Thanks for coming. I'll try my best so that we are able to hear everything I would like to tell about today within 40 minutes. First of all, could you please raise your hands who is already involved into one-to-one meetings as an organizer of one-to-one meeting, as the one who is held in it? Would like to be sure who is the majority, like half of you. And please raise your hand who has no experience with one-to-one meetings at all. Okay, so still, yeah, okay. We have more people who have some experience. This means we will miss one block of my session, and we'll have a little bit more time for questions. So one-to-one meeting. Let's start with the terminology. For the rest of the session, let's agree on two terms. I will call the person who is interviewing, who is hosting one-to-one meeting, as an interviewer. Pretty obvious. And the person, actually employee, whom you are interviewing is going to be teammate. So there is an interviewer who is hosting the interview, and there is a teammate, the one who we provide interview for. And brief agenda for our today's session is very simple. First of all, as have been mentioned in my DrupalCamp website, this session is for middle level. I assume that at least the majority of you has some experience with at least one-to-one meeting. So we're going to start with one-to-one as a process, which is based all on my experience plus the process which we have built in my current company, Dev Branch. And why am I telling about this? Because we are 27 people, which is already big enough to start bureaucratizing our processes, and still young enough, small enough to be agile to fine-tune those processes once anything goes wrong. So this is one of our youngest processes, but we think we're really strong with it. So I'll tell you how we do this. This actually will be the checklist, which there will be the final slide, which you can take pictures of. This is how we do it. The second part is 12 life hacks, both from my experience and from very smart guys. I guess some of you know them. Those are Strataplan management school. So half of those life hacks are my personal, half of them are of that business school. Then we're going to proceed to your questions, because you came here to hear some answers to your questions, and we'll go on with that. And if we have some time, then this last slide, this last part is about some theory, some visualization about one-to-one process problems. This is just a theory, interesting theory, but it's not so important. It's mainly for junior level. So only if we have time, we will use flip chart and have some very, very little fun. So let's, without further ado, right now I'm going to tell you how we host one-to-one meeting process. This is the checklist. This is point number 1, initiation meeting, and this is how it all is started. Initiation meeting is all about 5 to 10 minutes meeting where we announce to teammate, the one who is going to be present in the one-to-one meeting, the goal of this one-to-one. We just tell him that we announce to him that such process exists, and it's built only to hear his feedback on us. We're going to provide him our feedback. We're going to hear out which problems he has, and we're going to answer those questions which he may have, but he doesn't know whom to ask. So we just announce that there is such a process. This is it. Only announcement. 5-10 minutes. Nothing more. No big preparations at this stage at all. Only to announce and give him this knowledge. But we're going, although this point is all about 5 minutes, we're going to talk about this point for the next 10 minutes of this session, because Here we have two biggest tricks how our company, our team provides one-to-one sessions. So this was one of the biggest lies of my whole session. My whole session is not about one-to-one meeting. My session is about two-to-one meeting. This is the main difference we have provided. We have two interviewers talking to one person, talking to one teammate. And this is done to multiple reasons. I'll elaborate on this point a little bit later, but for now, let's say that we do it because not all interviewers are good enough to interview, and we usually call two persons. One of those persons is development lead on the project of the teammate. The one, he's actually his boss on the project, whom teammate is working on day by day, how we call it, in the fields, right, on the project, meeting all the deadlines, writing code with, and so on. This is about dev lead. Dev lead is present on two-to-one meetings. The second person is some kind of a supervisor. This is the person, the second interviewer. He knows the teammate. Somehow they smoke together on lunches. They're friends in life. That doesn't really matter. This person knows the teammate, and so this is the team of two people. One of which one of whom knows day by day struggles of the teammate, and the other one has some kind of fresh view on the situation. He doesn't know what this teammate does on a daily basis, what his project is about, for example. But he's kind of a psychologist who can take a look at the situation from some outer perspective. So this is point one. On the initiation meeting, we have two persons announcing to the teammate that this meeting is going to happen. And immediately we proceeding with the second very important peculiarity of our two-to-one meeting. What else is done during this initiation meeting? It's not only about announcement. It's about asking. You'll have time to read this. This is actually the next topic. It's about asking the teammate, okay, now you know, we're going to hold two-to-one meeting with you. We're going to give our feedbacks to you. We're going to hear your feedbacks on our company. We're going to hear out your problems, trying to solve them. We're going to answer the questions you might have. But to do this meeting, upcoming meeting, more effective, to talk about solutions of your problems, we ask you to think and to provide the list of topics you would like to discuss during this two-to-one meeting beforehand. In reasonable limits, you are not bound by time. You need 1 week, 2 weeks, 3 weeks. It's okay to prepare those problems, because two-to-one meeting is an important meeting. It's not about having the limits of time. A person might have some problems which are not expressed even by himself yet. The teammate might have some problems, but he might have not still understand that he wants to discuss them. And this trick, it really works. First of all, I think it won't work. Because, well, you ask the person, we're going to hold with you two-to-one meeting, please tell us what you would like to talk about. I was thinking nobody will write this thesis, but we've held more than 20 two-to-one meetings so far, and each time employee, teammate, he's interested in this meeting so big that he is preparing his thesis. He is providing you with those problems he would like to discuss even before the meeting. And this is just a list of questions which help him to understand what we want from him. You can read it all by yourself. I won't elaborate on them. This is just like a шпаргалка for him to see what do we want from him. Those questions, they really help him to write those down, to get from his head his real problems and write those down. So this is what is happening during this preparation phase to a two-to-one meeting. It's all about no meeting yet at all. So we give him this thesis, and then he has 1 to 3 weeks to prepare them. Once he is ready, he's handing them to us, and then we are starting the second part B, an internal meeting. This is not 2-to-1 meeting yet. This is preparation. This is still a preparation. And getting teammate feedback, the previous step, is only one step of this preparation. So while he's preparing that feedback, he needs some weeks for it. While he's doing that, we ask clients whom this teammate works with and his teammates of those teammates, right? His colleagues on the project, to provide their feedback on his work. Because we try to gather as much feedback from different people as possible. I would maybe elaborate it in the very last block of my session if we still have time. But one point of view of a single person, of you, it can be so wrong about the objective reality. You may see only some episodes of that person's work, which are not how he works. Those are just spontaneous moments. And we try to gather as much impressions about the teammate as possible. So our clients provide this feedback about the person, his teammates provide the feedback. And finally, those two interviewers, the lead and the supervisor, when they finally have this thesis from teammate, feedback from client, feedback from his teammates, then we have this internal meeting. We analyze those theses from everyone. We see the big picture, and we start to discuss internally, only two of us, supervisor and development lead, which kind of feedback we need to provide the person with, which weak points he has, which great points he has, answers we need to answer, questions we need to answer, and so on. Also, delaying this final main meeting for a couple of weeks allows us in the situations when you ask the teammate provide his thesis on what he would like to discuss. Sometimes there are such questions which are out of your competence to answer. And if you are hosting this one-to-one meeting immediately, you just do not know how to answer. Your answer is, I don't know, I need to consult with CEO, it is out of my scope, which is actually is not what employee teammate is expecting to hear. He's expecting to hear answers to his question at this meeting, and you're telling him, I don't know, I need to consult, just I don't know, out of my scope of vision in this company. So if we see such questions, we still have time to ask whoever is responsible for this topic and have strict answers for, I have a clicker, yeah. To have strict answers even before the meeting. And finally, after I don't know how many times of our session, this is the main topic, clause C, finally the main meeting. After all those preparations, this is when things are happening, but I will be rather brief on this. No, I won't tell much tricks on this point of 2-to-1 meeting, besides that when you have all the agenda of this main meeting, I mean, you have all the feedbacks, all the questions, and so on, before the meeting, try to sort them due to people psychology. I mean, this is an oral conversation, right? And we all are people. Due to psychology, well, at least they advise us, first discuss negative moments and negative feedbacks and person's problems. Because this is a hard part. This is actually a hard part, but we will need to have this conversation at some point of time. So they advise, and we do it. We discuss the hardest topics in the very beginning. It takes a lot of resources. It's a lot of mental energy. It's hard. It's really hard for all of us. But when finally all the topics are discussed, then we proceed to another psychological trick, which is first we're discussing negative points orally, logic, emotions. Emotions are going here. It's like bad emotion. They provide me bad feedback. I fucked up this project. I did wrong here. I didn't know about that. Those are all bad points with some solutions. But then when those are finally over, In the second part, you proceed to a positive feedback. We all are people, we all are smart people. We all know this is a manipulation. And with the positive tricks, just so that my mood is better. We all know this is manipulation. It is a manipulation, but it works. Because after 2-to-1 meeting, the teammate, anyway, if there are some positive feedbacks at all, okay, but I bet there are, he goes in a good mood because the rest of the 2-to-1 meeting was about good things. He remembers by logic, he remembers that he had some fucked up things and he needs to improve. But also he has this good emotion that it ended up positively. You are not firing him. You provided him with solutions. You answered his questions. His questions are answered. And the final part of the conversation was all about positive, how good, which good points he did, which achievement he did, where he was heroic without bringing any harm, which technologies he learned, and so on and so on. This is the trick of 2-to-1 meeting. But once this 2-to-1 meeting is over, well, this is over. You leave the cabinet. This is it. This is it. It's not over for you as an interviewer. Your teammate may leave the cabinet and might go to a kitchen, make some coffee, have a rest, because lots of emotions are spent here. You cannot do it because there is a final, of course, chapter follow-up. I don't know if you see it behind the flip chart. Just follow-up. Follow-up, I bet you all know it's up to you where to write this. It's a written follow-up, of course. It can be an email, it can be a Skype message, Telegram, whatever, Slack message, whatever you use. But it should be documented. It's all about the summary of what you were talking about. And please understand that it's up to you as an interviewer to provide this follow-up. So once you leave 2-to-1 meeting, you're full of emotions too. You're exhausted. It's because it's hard, it's exhaustive. But you need to find powers within the next hour or two, structurize everything you have discussed during this 2-to-1 meeting, structurize it in a written text with strict problems and strict solutions, and to send this follow-up to the person, well, within the next hours after the meeting, because this is the final point he sees on his desktop. This is the final point. Yes, we were discussing this. Yes, I agree. We discussed it. Yes, yes, and yes. Yes, I agree. Those are the solutions and agreements we have set. It's hard to concentrate enough after 2-to-1 meeting to compose this, but you're professionals, you need to find powers for it. There is a trick with this follow-up. It's the next meme. We were talking that during oral conversation, we first discuss negative parts, then we discuss positive parts. With written follow-up, you first write down positive moments as A, B, C, or 1, 2, 3, whatever count you use. First positive in your email, and then go back to negative. Then, after the positive. This is another trick, just how psychologically, about person's perception of text. This is a pure text. When you see text with clauses, A, B, C, D, and so on, you think that A, B, and C, which are just chronologically for the first, they are more important than G, H, I, and whatever is behind. It's just, again, it's a psychology. A person concentrates on the positive moments of your 2-to-1 meeting follow-up by reading it again and again, and less concentration on negative moments, which once again makes the emotion of that. Nevertheless, no matter which hard questions we have discussed, though this was positive, I came from here a better person with the feedbacks than I was before. So this is actually our process. This is it. Only one slide. You may take pictures of it because this is the most important. This is how we use it. And now let's proceed to more tactical life hacks and tricks of 2-to-1 meeting. I'm sorry, how much time do I have? Окей, нормально, встигаємо. First 2 points are going to repeat what I have said, but still I had to put them. As for thesis beforehand, once again, I didn't believe it works, but once again, somehow during the feedbacks from our guys, yes, they took their time. They subconsciously started to think, okay, what I really would like to discuss during this meeting, rather than asking the teammate, what would you like to discuss exactly at the meeting? Tell me what you would like to discuss in 1 minute. It's a stress, he doesn't know. Give him time to prepare. As much time as he needs, within reasonable limits, but still. Sometimes he needs a weekend to think about it. Sometimes he needs to go to the bar with his friends to drink some beer to relieve this emotion to understand. It takes time. Give him this time. Obviously, about 2 interviewers, the only point I would like to add to what I have already told about 2 interviewers is from only my personal experience. I have worked with a couple of CEOs in my life, with a couple of, let's say, like bosses hierarchically above me, and I was hosting 2-to-1 meetings with them. And the interesting part is that CEOs are smart guys. They're smart guys. No matter how hypocritical, no matter how unfair it may sound, but let's say I'm having 2-to-1 meeting with all of you, like one by one, the next days. You all have your personal problems. All of you are unique. But if we take the big picture, I will have 20 problems of low salary, 20 problems of not going to vacation yet after 3 years of work, 30% of job place being too far from your house. No matter how unique your problems are, they're so typical. And CEOs, they really host dozens of such meetings during their career. They know all your problems. During this interview, you only start to try to express which problem you have. And they told me, we already know what you would like to have. And very often, CEOs, they don't have patience to hear you until the end. They don't have patience to hear the person they are interviewing, because they know the solution, and they start immediately, oh no, okay, I know what you want to say. This is the solution. And this is what makes 2-to-1 meeting ineffective. You better have some kind of psychologist person who will stop CEO. Hold on. This is his meeting. Please proceed. You need to hear person as much as the person is talking. If it takes him 10 minutes to express the problem, this is about him relieving his emotion. Only after your teammate is saying, yeah, this is what I wanted to tell you. Only after this exhale, you may start proceeding with solutions to the problem. According to this Steve Covey, right, 7 Habits of Effective People, I bet a lot of you know this famous book. He tells, while in conflict there is still an emotion, while this teammate is expressing emotions, it was so unfair, no, I don't agree with it, they fucked up, I didn't, I'm right, they're wrong. Until he says this, you cannot interrupt him with the logic. Okay, but you understand that is this. Give him a chance to relieve this emotion. Only when the emotion is over, then start with logical solutions. And why I'm telling this, not all dev leads and not all CEOs have this patience to hear the person. So only my advice is to have one of the interviewers should be the guy who has enough skills of a facilitator, who will tell the interviewer, it's your interview, go on please. Are we done with your question? No? Then go on please. It's only up to the teammate to tell that, yes, we are done with this topic. Thank you for your feedback, thank you for your answers. I understand. Let's proceed to the next clause. And lots of CEOs, they tell, we are done with this clause. Let's proceed to the next one. No, it's up to teammates to tell when you're done with this question. This is the essence of those meetings. Number 3. I'm sorry. Yes, this is exactly what I was talking about during this one. Let teammate talk. It's his meeting. He's the core of this meeting. This is about fuck ups. I personally missed a meeting with one of my teammates like a month ago, just because at some point of time didn't put I used Todoist application, lots of you may know it. I missed to put calendar date on it. And when I missed to do so, Todoist doesn't send me the notification reminder about the 2-to-1, and I missed it. So just it's up to you as the ones who are responsible for 2-to-1 meetings to keep this calendar of 2-to-1 meetings. It's you as an interviewer who should remind teammate about 2-to-1s. I personally had two feedbacks with when I was telling, hi, do you remember that we have 2-to-1 meetings scheduled like 2 months ago? Do you remember that we have this in a week? With responses, oh, I didn't remember, thanks for reminding. This is up to you. Otherwise, those 2-to-1s are not systematic. And you know, lots of you are developers. If you miss some integral point of a process which should be systematic, then all the system is ruining. Then it makes no sense if it's not systematic. Put reminders to check the agreements. This is about follow-ups. When you send a follow-up of what have been agreed during this meeting, it's only not about, of course, psychological support. You're a great guy, go on with the work. Very often they are concrete to-do lists that, okay, with your problem, with broken chair, our office manager is going to order it. It's up to you to choose the one you need, and the other office manager, I'm exaggerating, but other office manager will take it. So make sure that you are responsible for this process, that you coordinate office managers to chairs after this talk, because if you don't do it, no one will do it. And if no one will do it, then this is a broken promise. You had this agreement, but it was not realized. No matter why, you forgot to write this in your to-do list, great, but you promised something important to this person and didn't do it. You just didn't think that you are the controller of this agreement. You are. It's tough, but it's very tough. It's time-consuming, it is hell, but you are. It's up to you to make sure these promises are kept. The very same thing. I talked about it already. It's just about like point of view. You may not see the big picture. Try to grab as much facts before 2-to-1 meeting as possible, just to see the big picture. Because if only this teammate is one person and his dev lead is the other person, their visions of the situation may be so different and so unfair comparing to one each other, then this can bring to some, in the worst cases, it can bring some conflicts which could have been so easily avoided if everyone analyzed the situation in a full picture. If we have time, I will elaborate this in the fourth block of this session. Number 7, we are half through the life hacks. This is not. It's a very strict clause. Your attention belongs to the teammate. What I mean, it's not abstract. It's not abstract at all. It's a good thing if you take your laptop to this 2-to-1, because you are then able to write down in real time what you are discussing, just to send a proper follow-up, not to forget everything. This is a good thing. But personally, I faced one situation, and those guys from Strataplan during the webinars, they told lots of situations when laptops were misused. We all have tons of notifications from messengers, email notifications about new emails, and each time it comes and laptop is just in front of you, you take your time to take a look at what's going on there. Maybe it's something important. It's okay for you. It takes only a second of your time. It's okay. Why not? But from the perspective of an interviewer, of a teammate, it's you constantly not listening to him, but doing something else. Not paying attention to him. He's providing you his sincere feedback. He gives you his soul during this meeting, and you are checking some kind of notifications. It's like solution is very simple. At the beginning of 2-to-1 meeting, tell the teammate, this is a laptop. I know it will consist of notifications, but it's not for me to work my project while I talk to you, while I make a vision that I talk to you. No, it's only about writing the follow-up. This simple trick, it solves some situations when a teammate is angry at you. Yes, thanks. Is angry at you for not paying attention to him. This is abstract. This is abstract because let me just ask, which motivational factors do you know? Just don't raise your hand, just scream out. Which motivational? Listen to yourself. You're telling the right things. Great answers. There are, from what I haven't heard, ability to spend more time with your family, being socially active, become famous, having hobbies except for work, have a stable job. I mean, for people with a family, that no urgencies will come up tomorrow, which will change the planned budget, for example, for a son. Yes, Ira. We can call it involvement. Okay, yes, we can. I mean, there are so much motivational factors besides of two more interesting, radical. One motivational factor, become a leader, be a leader, so that having authority. The other motivational factor, being a great second hand, being a great helper to some leader. Some people need to follow someone. Those are the polar motivational factors. And when you know them, just when you read about them, some blog posts, I don't know, it's so easier to handle these 2-to-1 meetings when you understand which motivation leads this exact person. But this is rather abstract, I know. Build competence metrics. This is about Drupal teams. Lots of feedbacks of your teammates will build on, I'm done with these tasks which I'm doing. I don't understand how I can get more money in this company. I just don't understand how this company works. I'm done with my project. I don't like it anymore. And we found out that very simple answer to solve such kind of problems. Big problems. I'm done with my project. I don't want to do it anymore. Big problem. Crisis. It's a crisis on the project. Is to build competence metrics. It's very simple. It's only about. We all are here representatives of Drupal agencies. Make up a list of technologies your CTO demands, for example. Docker, Git, Composer, whatever, which every employee of your company needs to know, and build such a list involving dev lead of the project teammate is working on. For example, if the project uses leaflet library, then add this leaflet library to this list of technologies would be nice to have. Well, from our experience, you cannot even imagine how easily this solves lots of problems when you need to when teammates are asking, tell me which kind of new technology I should learn, because I'm done with clicking these blocks, for example. And you have this list beforehand. You already have it, and you can motivate to your teammate why he needs to why your business needs it at the first hand. Solves lots of problems. Trust me. And it can be not only about technologies, actually Drupal technologies, right? It can be about you must improve your English. You must become more self-organized. You can help in events organizations because, like, for example, our company hosts events, and we involve developers into organizing them. Those are just additional motivational factors, additional activities which help people to develop themselves. But those are predefined. Those are answers predefined by you. You know the answers already if you build these competence metrics. 5 minutes. Yeah, I got it. Thanks. Be ready for the toughest questions. This is kind of a summary, of course. The toughest questions of every 2-to-1 meeting are: I want a higher salary, I'm done with my project, and I'm leaving. Well, those are the biggest crises. And this is the topic of course, of a separate session at DrupalCamp, how to discuss such sessions. But we questions, sorry. But we should understand that if 2-to-1 meetings as the process are made more or less regularly, I mean, every 1 to 3 months, depending on the situation, really, depending on your capabilities. If you have these control points as often as possible, then these questions like I'm leaving or I'm done with the project, they are expressed in a softer form. Your employee, your teammate, he doesn't go into depression this deep. Then in a year, you understand that during this last year he was thinking about leaving, and now there is no return point already. He made his decision. If you made this more or less regular, you have ability to control and to change the situation. Only when he starts, well, I think I'm done with this project, which in a year will lead to him leaving the company because he will hate this project. You, in a month, you have a great chance to react to the situation. Simple as that. But once again, I'm sorry, this is the topic of a separate discussion. Two last clauses, we're almost over. This is for the toughest questions, for the hardest conversations. Very simple. 2-to-1 meeting is the meeting you held in your office, right? In your cabinet of your offices. Person knows all about all this interior, it's all so familiar. In the toughest, when there is a great depression a person had, I have 3 such cases when person wanted to leave IT at all. Not talking about only leaving the company, but leaving IT at all. I'm done. This is the deepest depression. At least the first step is to change the environment at all. In one case, with a guy, we simply went to a bar, ordered, I'm sorry, but we ordered some chikushka and beer, and he needed to spill his guts for 3 hours, only telling how things were bad. But he needed to give this emotion to someone. He was silent for all this time, and we didn't have this as a process yet. It was years ago, but we didn't have this process. He had this ball rolling for so long time, and he had no one to talk to, that we needed this drastic measure, I understand, to change it. Well, we need it. The other case was with a girl who had a similar situation. We just decided to go out of the office, not to the bar, only walking. It was just a walk, but walk with no particular direction. We didn't go to the bus station and I put her to the bus and bye-bye. I hope I helped you, bye-bye. It was only walking around the the block or the region, whatever, with no finish line. Only when she has solved all her problems, only then we have finished our walk, and then she went home. But don't bound people with time limits. This is too important for them. Sometimes bounding with the time limits may result in ineffective 2-to-1 and person is leaving. This is about most radical cases, okay? Those are not our typical job, of course. And the last one, this is it. This is the conclusion. I'm sorry we didn't had a chance to use the flip chart or whatever, but in my announcement on DrupalCamp website, I told we will discuss some tricks, we will discuss some policies, processes, how to be prepared for 2-to-1 meeting. Okay, for a 1-to-1 meeting, if you don't use the 2-to-1 meeting, because it demands lots of resources. It's expensive, actually, to spend 2 people's time, but it's up to you. Answer was in the announcement already. You have this checklist, and trust me, I'm telling you only the truth here. The first A, B, takes so much time. This is about preparation. Then when you are finally on this main meeting, 1-to-1 meeting, finally, you are so prepared, then there is so less chance that you will have something unexpected at this point, that you will sit like, I don't know what to do. I wasn't ready for it. You're already at this point where it's all about controllable process, and meeting is as expected, let me say like this, meeting becomes as expected and controllable as it can be. You know, this is the trait of all professionalism, right? Checklists are built on experience, on fuck-ups. This is our experience. Simply be prepared. Spend your time. It takes time. It takes hours. But if you are having one-to-one meeting process in a company, and if you're spending your time to prepare, then you save lots of your nerves, of both your nerves and of your teammate, of course. Both interviewer and teammate are winning. How much time do we have for questions? I'm sorry.
Дуже важливі.
I'm going to after party. Ну і просто тут на районі шарюсь теж.
Thank you.